We are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy Sports, and we have a 7-game NBA slate to break down for today. Before we get started on any of that, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Decent day for you yesterday, Adam, across multiple sports.
Yeah, good day. Won a couple high stakes MMA tournaments, won an MMA seat, won a high stakes NBA tournament. So yeah, good day.
MMA is not a live final, correct? Or at
It
least
actually
it
is
hasn't
this
been.
year.
Oh,
But
shit, nice.
so the way they do it is it's 3 rounds. Like round one, there's 70 total people. Round one, the top 30 people advance. That's online. Round two is online. The top 10 people advance. And then round three is live at a UFC pay-per-view with the final 10.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That'd be really sick to go to.
Yeah. Last year was a similar format, but obviously all of it was online.
Right.
But yeah, this year the actual final, like the final 10, is live.
Interesting. Makes me more interested in like paying attention to the qualifiers moving forward, because that's just like a different experience than
and it's nice because I mean, since the live final is 100K to first, so it's a little bit less expensive to try and qualify.
Yeah.
And then also something I hadn't thought about until somebody mentioned it at the NBA final in regards to hockey being like a 40-person field. If you win the MMA final, you still get a ticket to the tournament champions. So it's one of the smallest field, like it's one of the cheapest ways to try and get into the tournament of champions.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that, but yeah, that does. I guess that makes some sense. So something to pay attention to, that's for sure. 7 games here for us. It's the NBA on a Sunday. Prize pools look fine. We're slowly but surely getting into the dregs of the NBA season. We're coming up on the final 30 days. I'd say within the next week or two, we're going to get some wholesale shithousery clear across the board. But then we get to what should be like an absolutely epic playoff, so long as we don't get a bunch of injuries over the next month. I'm pumped for the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs should be great. Like it's so wide open. Plus, I was able to get a couple futures bets in when I was in Nashville, so I at least have a rooting interest, assuming Washington doesn't make it.
Who did you take?
I got the Nuggets to win the title at 30-1, and the Celtics at 22-1.
Okay, so we're Nuggets Celtics is the preferred final for you.
Yeah, that would be
at this point. Okay, that'll work. Well, do you want to just dive into this bad boy? Break it all down.
Yeah.
We're kicking it off.
I should get back to the NBA projections and not the PGA Showdown projections.
Yes, I think you'll do a little bit better on this show by not looking at PGA. Unless, of course, Ty Hatton is playing really well, because that's who I have in one and done this week. And he's playing just well enough to not matter for me at all. At a crisp, tied for 21st, 7 under, which is nice. 11 strokes back of whatever a Davis Riley is.
He's the guy in my only live lineup in the 250K to first, so hopefully he wins.
Based on what I saw, I think that I just saw the Cut Sweats tweet of simulations, and I don't think that I saw you.
I know I wasn't on there last night. I don't know if it got updated and I improved, but I'm like 77th coming in today. I'm sure I need to run like
ultra
perfect across the board.
You are not on there now. I don't really recognize anybody.
I appreciate them not jinxing me, because last time I wasn't on there and I had a good team. I won.
There you go. That's all you need. The New Orleans Pelicans are 4.5-point dogs in Atlanta, 231 total. Nothing too crazy in this one. I think we're kind of locked into a relatively normal rotation here across both teams. We have no Brandon Ingram still. Devontae Graham is questionable. On the Atlanta side, Trae Young is questionable. No John Collins, but nothing else flying or like hanging out in ambiguity. And we're going to learn all of this stuff before lock either way. So assuming Devontae Graham is in, only one guy is getting any ownership for the Pelicans. That would be CJ McCollum. He's 8,700 on FanDuel, 26% owned. He's 9,200 on DraftKings, 15% owned. I like him a lot more at the $8,700 price tag on FanDuel for sure. Maybe a little bit higher owned than I was expecting, but certainly looks good. I agree, though. Not much else here for the Pels.
Yeah, I agree too. I do think McCollum looks very good. He's played 4 games now without Ingram and with Joval. 33% usage rate, 43% assist percentage, 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. Not a bad matchup, likely to be a high-scoring game. I think everything looks good for him. Joval has a really high ceiling, but the issue is just that you're basically paying for it at 8,500. And I think this is a big enough slate where you're going to just be able to find plenty of guys that you're not overpaying for, and a big enough slate that you can get relatively low owned guys that still look a little bit underpriced. So it's not that I think Joval is bad, but I just think you're paying a premium there. Beyond that, it's really difficult for me to find anything else I really want since pricing has pretty much adjusted for Brandon Ingram being out, with the exception of CJ McCollum.
Yeah, I expected a little bit more here coming out of the Pels, but I see nothing at all. Like, to me, everybody's just sort of appropriately priced at this point.
Yeah, where do we have McCollum in the boom bust tool? Yeah, basically correctly owned. 13% optimal percentage, 16% ownership.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah. Joval, for what it's worth, like Joval at 8,500, we do have going under owned, 2% ownership, 6% chance of being optimal. But that's just the kind of play where he's getting in a lineup here or there as your high upside contrarian piece. You're not going into the slate saying like, oh, Joval's the biggest edge I can find, I'm going to just jam him in everywhere.
Yeah, is he a positive leverage play based on that data? Yes. Is he the 41st best play today based on optimal odds or whatever the hell it is? Yeah, and like that's when the positive leverage doesn't mean as much when you're not near the top of optimal odds.
Yeah, when you're expected to fail 94% of the time, you typically don't want to be going too crazy on that stand.
Absolutely. Is there anything else we should be talking about here for the Pels?
I don't really think so.
All righty. Okay. We do have one thing that we should touch on. If Devontae Graham is out, who is impacted positively?
I would think you're looking at more $4,400 Alvarado. Yeah. But I also think that you probably just get minutes spread out. Like Najee Marshall plays more, Trey Murphy can play some more. Like it's not like they have to replace Graham with a point guard because you have McCollum. So I think it would just be like all of those guys step up. But again, they've all become more expensive as well.
Yeah, they're probably casting just that big wide net over Ty Wallace, Marshall, Trey Murphy, Alvarado. There's no one set guy that just soaks it all up.
Like I kind of think Marshall, Murphy, Alvarado are priced for Graham to be out. Like if Graham is in, I have zero interest in those guys. If Graham is out, it's like, okay, well now they look playable, but
Trey Murphy, by the way, $3,900 on FanDuel, $1,000 cheaper than he is on DraftKings. He opens up a little bit more on FanDuel on the off chance that Graham ends up out.
Sure.
On the Atlanta side, clearly we're waiting on whether or not Trae Young is going to be playing here. I have him in. He's 10-4 on FanDuel, 10-2 on DraftKings. Certainly looks good in this spot, as does like the rest of Atlanta. I'm happy to get to Herter, Hunter, Bogdanovich, Gallo, Capella. They all look really similar to me.
Yeah, the Young news obviously is huge, but if Young is in, I like Young at 10-2. I'm interested in Capella at 6,400. But other than that, I'm not really that interested in anything. If Young is out, though, I think Bogdanovich starts to look good at 6,800. Herter looks good at 5,500. It's a bump for Gallo. It's, obviously a bump for DeLon Wright, who's gotten more expensive. But if Young is in, this seems pretty similar to New Orleans for me in that it's Trae Young and then a pretty massive step down.
See, I have it a little bit closer. I don't know, I think that Atlanta's like a half step ahead of everybody from the Pelicans.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I think that even if Young is in, I think I'm playing DeAndre Hunter before I'm playing Herbert Jones or something.
Agreed.
I agree with you there, but I think it's kind of just like Young looks positive. Capella looks fine. The rest of the guys I think are negative plays, but they're at least they're negative plays in the same sense that Joval's a negative play, where
right.
I think that they're overpriced if Young is in, but not by a drastic margin.
That's fair.
There's a lot of guys on the Pels where I'm just like, there's no way I could even get to them.
I'm with you on that one. If Trae Young is out, I assume we're going straight back to DeLon Wright, although $4,900 now on DraftKings, $4,400 on FanDuel. The price has climbed a bit.
$4,900 is at least a price point where you have to think about it, because he's not a very good point per minute guy, despite what he did last game. He still would likely play enough minutes to be reasonable. But this year he started 6 games without Trae Young. He's averaged 0.92 DraftKings points per minute, 33.5 minutes per game. So, I mean, he would still project well, but he's nowhere near the no-brainer that he was at 3,300.
Absolutely. Are we getting to anything else if Trae Young ends up out?
Yeah, I think the whole team opens up because you're probably getting 30-plus minutes from Bogdanovich. His usage rate and assist percentage both get up into the mid-20s. Kevin Herter sees a bump in both usage and assist percentage. he's favorably priced in that case at 5,500. And then you do get some increased usage for Gallo when Young's not out there. Hunter, you're not really going to get increased usage, but you could see, maybe a couple of extra minutes for him. So I think like looking at the DraftKings pricing, if Young is out, I think Herter is the guy that ends up standing out the most since he is $1,300 less expensive than Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich's ceiling is very high if Young is out. And then Gallo and Hunter just both look, a little bit better.
Would you like a note from the NCAA tournament? That seems interesting.
Sure.
St. Peter's is the first team from New Jersey to reach the Sweet 16 since 2000.
Seton Hall.
The last team to do it was Seton Hall. Their starting point guard was St. Peter's head coach Shaheen Holloway.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's just dumb. It's that kind of shit just makes me think that the whole world is made up.
Well, as you were saying it, I was
what?
Yeah. As you were saying it, I was like, there's no way. And then I was like, wait, what schools are in New Jersey? Seton Hall, Princeton, I think, like Rutgers. Obviously, nobody gives a shit about Rutgers.
Better hope Stratford's not watching this show.
That there was one reason I said that.
I know.
I'm also pretty confident he's not watching a basketball show while he's in Paris. But
at 10
who knows?
Our show on a Sunday. Yeah, I doubt it.
But still worth it. But yeah, like there's not really schools in New Jersey.
No, not at all. That's just for it to be that extra little step of just like even just. Oh man, 22 years since a team from New Jersey. Like that sounds like a really long time. And then you top it off, you put that cherry on top. That's when it gets a little interesting. Have you been watching any of the tournament?
No, my bracket went to shit the first day and I just stopped. I was like going in, I was like, cool, I actually have a reason to use like all of my TVs and this will be a lot of fun. And then it was just like, I hate college basketball. The only reason I would watch is because I think the tournament is fun, but my bracket is so bad. I don't even have a rooting interest here. So, I'm good.
That'll do it. Yeah, if it's on like in the background, yesterday was really nice. So bounced around to a couple bars. If games were on, I was watching whatever was on the TV. I don't care at all what happens.
It's nice like if I'm at a bar like during the day because at least there's something on TV. I'm not sitting there watching like First Take or something.
Right.
But yeah, like when I'm at home, I just don't care enough to like turn on the TV and get to the channel.
I wish that I was in a state that allowed live betting because I would have loved to just fire a bet off while I was at the bar just to like a rooting interest in anything.
Yeah. That was, I actually didn't really take advantage of it in Nashville. Like it obviously was before the tournament, but they had the conference championships on. But I was so used to I don't know anything about college basketball, but like I was with people that did, but I'm also just so not used to having live betting. They'd be like in the app, like, oh, this is the line, like I'm firing. And for me, it would be like, oh shit, I guess I would have to get my phone out, open the app, get there, and it's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah. I'm not well versed in it. I don't even think about it. It doesn't register to me to be like, oh, I need to hit that under right away or anything like that. I just don't have that in me.
Yeah. And then I finally, a couple of us went down to a bar. They didn't have MMA on, but we were watching it on like my phone. And there was one fight in particular where we're watching the fight and we're both like, this underdog is going to come back and win. Let's live bet it after this round. Like 30 seconds before the round ends, the underdog gets the knockout. It's like, damn it.
That would have been fun.
To answer the question, somebody said, I hate college basketball as well, but why do you hate it? It's just, I don't think it's a good product. Like, I think the excitement level is fun in the tournament because there is, parity and it's kind of like most of the players are so bad that any team can win. But I don't know. I don't get enjoyment out of people not being that good at the sport that I'm watching. Like, I can go watch
the WNBA.
I can go watch high school sporting events too, where it's competitive because everybody's on the same level and they're not very good. Like, I don't know. If I'm going to watch sports, I want guys that can like make shots and do things, not like, oh, they play good defense because the other team can't make a layup.
Right. Like, I don't want to watch single A baseball on my television either.
Right. Like it's entertainment. Like, sure.
Yeah. The emotion of March Madness is different than most other sports.
Right. I love the format of the tournament. I think it's exciting. I hate college basketball as a product.
Agreed. We're on the same page. I used to love it. I used to be fascinated by it. And then once I started watching more of the NBA, it's like, oh, these guys aren't as good.
It blows my mind that people would rather watch a college basketball game than the NBA.
Unless you went to that college, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Like,
or you're just like, you're talking March Madness versus a random Pels Atlanta game. Sure,
right.
maybe. Like I'm still gonna watch the Pels game, but
Yeah.
you at least there's a different level of excitement just in competition. But yeah, it's like I don't know. You can watch guys that are the absolute best at what they're doing, or guys that aren't. I don't really get it.
All right.
Single A
Well,
baseball is fine, but you're gonna watch Major League Baseball first.
right. Like it's multiple steps down the rung of talent.
Like when I went to I initially went to undergrad at Coastal Carolina, and they had a top 10 ranked D1 baseball team at the time. They were a lot of fun to watch because it was like watching a minor league baseball team. Like they were all just so good. But still, if you put them next to like the worst major league team, they look like shit.
Yeah, it's night and day. It's
Yeah, it's like they're
I
playing
just don't
different
want to
sports.
watch worse things. I made a joke about it before. That's why I don't watch the WNBA.
Sure.
It's just not as good. I'm gonna do this now, and I know that I shouldn't. I clicked on ESPN yesterday, and I don't know. I think it was Stanford. I don't remember which team. It's not really important, but one of the girls dunked, and the blurb below the video was just like so and so whoever this is with the epic dunk against whatever, and she goes and dunks the exact same way that I would have when I was 20, like
Yeah,
one-handed,
cool. You're
barely
tall.
get
We get it, Josh.
yeah, barely gets it over the rim type joint. And the picture under that is LeBron going up for a dunk. And he's got it like cocked back behind his head. He's clearly like a foot and a half above the rim. It's just two completely different things. But the first one was called Epic, and the other one was just like LeBron dunking on a Thursday.
And like to be clear, like, and to me, it's not even taking away from like the WNBA, and I'm not even really trying to take away from college basketball. Like, the best college basketball programs are still, the players are the best at what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
just that, like, I guess I don't like. I'm not like a huge basketball fan in the sense where like I just crave basketball and just want to watch like the best at all levels. Like, I like basketball enough to watch like the absolute best in the world, which is the NBA.
Yep. We're on the same page. All right, let's talk a little bit about the schedule for the rest of the day. College basketball live before lock will be coming up next at 11 a.m. NASCAR live before lock coming in at 2 p.m. We've got the NBA deeper dive at 4, along with the NBA live before lock show at 5 o'clock. No free content today because it is Sunday. We don't give out the goods on Sundays. Next game number 2 after 20 minutes. Oklahoma City, 5.5-point dogs at Orlando, 226. This is the type of game where I might be more likely to catch a college basketball game because OKC Orlando is not exactly thrilling stuff. We'll start on the OKC side, I guess. God, I'm so tired of talking about this team. I'm really looking forward to next season at this point. Trey Mann is off the injury report. Shea is questionable. Still no Giddey, JRE, Williams, Favors, Jerome, Muscala, Dort. All those guys are still out. So a lot of ownership coming in here. Baisley, 20 to 30% owned, depending on the site. Trey Mann's 24% on FanDuel. Poku is 25% owned on DraftKings. I haven't even mentioned Shea if he plays. I think we're going to get to a lot of OKC today.
Yeah, I hate when I pull this team up and they're like lit up in green, but they're just missing a lot of guys. It's a good matchup. One of those games where it's just absolute garbage in the NBA, but from a DFS standpoint, there are going to be some plays. If Gilgeous-Alexander is in at 9,900, I think he looks very good at that price. Baisley at 5,700 looks fine. Poku at 5,100 looks fine. If you take out SGA, everybody looks better. Trey Mann steps up. Teo Maledon at 3,500 probably ends up looking like one of the best value plays. So I think there's going to be a lot to get to here. You do also have the nightmare center position where like they're just alternating basically between like Roby and Sarr, but then neither one is playing enough minutes to really matter typically.
Yeah.
It scares me though, because like if Roby happens to play 30 minutes, he just wins you a tournament.
I don't know what they're doing there. You see Sarr starting and then he's playing like 14 to 18 minutes and nothing makes sense. I can't really wrap my head around this team at all. Roby hasn't played a ton in a while, but nothing's stopping him from doing it.
Right. And then last game you got who did Pokusevski start for last game? Oh, Man went to the bench. Pokusevski started.
Yeah.
So the only thing with the Sarr and Roby rotation that is giving me like some level of comfort that they're not going to go back to like a 30-18 split anytime soon, is they had talked a couple of weeks ago about Darius Bazley playing center later on in the season. So at least for now, you are getting some of those center minutes from Bazley. Again, that can change at any point. OKC has no reason to stick to any sort of set rotation game to game. But, it's still just very risky and difficult to start throwing darts at Roby given his recent playing time.
This team is gross, dude. So gross. And yet we're going to play a bunch of it because it's a pace up spot for Oklahoma City and it's the Orlando Magic on the opposite side. Aaron Wiggins is probably overpriced. I mean, it seems like Shea, Bazley, Mann, Poku are like the four you'd focus on. And then Roby and Sarr are just like full on wild cards.
Yeah. Like Roby and Sarr to me are the guys where if this were like yesterday's 3-game slate, I'd be taking shots at them. And then because it's a 3-game slate, they probably have the best game they'd had in a month at 20% owned. But on this slate, it's just, I don't really know what to do with it. Like if Isaiah Roby ends up being a slate winner, it's not the most shocking thing in the world, but I just don't think I can project him for close to enough minutes for me to really get to him.
Yeah. I gave him 19. I gave Sarr 18. Those can be just about any other number, and I'd believe it. I'm going to go to Orlando. For the Magic, Q tag on Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter off the injury report, Chuma Okeke off the injury report. Lots of ownership coming in here for Orlando because they get to take on a glorified G League team. Wendell Carter is 40% owned on FanDuel, 6,900 power forward center. It's 20% owned on DK where he's $900 more expensive. Anthony is 20% owned on FanDuel. Franz Wagner is 20% owned on FanDuel. Bomba's 15% owned on FanDuel. Fultz is 15% owned on DraftKings. Not sure I get that one. There's just a lot of ownership going around, bouncing across both sites. Lots of individual things to like here for Orlando.
Yeah, for sure. If Suggs is in, 4,700 is a pretty good price tag for him, assuming you're getting 28 to 30 minutes. And Carter at 7,800 just looks good. He's been very productive this year. Anthony, Wagner, Bamba, they all look fine. If Jalen Suggs doesn't play, you have a $3,800 RJ Hampton to sync your lineups again. But I mean, from a point per dollar standpoint, he would still project well. I'm kind of with you on Fultz. Like at 4,400, he certainly has a ceiling. He's been very productive this year. His rates are very good both this year and if you go back to since he first joined Orlando, but you take like all of the point guards off the floor, he's got really, really good rates, which is basically the conditions he's playing under here. But you're still talking about like 18, 19 minutes and decent ownership. It would be one thing if you were getting low ownership and you could say, okay, I'll play the game where, if Fultz is really efficient, he gets 30 DraftKings points. But if you're getting him at 15% and still need him to kind of play to like his peak. Yeah. I don't know. That's not really a spot that I like getting to all that much.
Yeah, I don't. That one I don't get from an ownership perspective. I don't know how he's second. You kind of just have to assume that he's going to be playing more minutes than he's been, and I don't really see that being the case.
And it's reflected in the boom bust tool right now as well. 8% optimal percentage, 14% projected ownership.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think it's just probably play a bunch of different Orlando dudes. Like Wendell Carter to me on FanDuel at 6,900 very clearly stands out as my preferred option. But on DraftKings, I think these guys are a lot closer to each other, whether that's Anthony or Bamba or Suggs, honestly, Wagner or Carter too. Their prices are a little bit different, but I just like getting to Orlando because Oklahoma City is so damn bad. It makes it really easy to want to roster people when you play Oklahoma City. You're probably getting a positive matchup in some way.
Yeah, and Orlando's just not that expensive. They're not like egregiously mispriced. It's not that there's one guy that stands out as like a crazy good play, but every one of the starters just looks either neutral or better.
Anything else here, OKC or Orlando?
I think I would rather watch college basketball than this game, but I'll have a lot of players from it.
Phoenix Suns are 10.5 point favorites in Sacramento, 232 total. We're still without Chris Paul. And that's not going to be changing anytime soon. Jay Crowder, questionable. Still no Cam Johnson in this one either. Gabriel Lundberg, not going to make it for the Suns, nor will Frank Kaminsky. It's not important. They signed him relatively recently. Highest owned guy on the FanDuel side, 17% owned Cam Payne. No one else in double digits. On DraftKings, though, Bridges, Booker, and Payne are all in the teens. I think they all look solid. I think Ayton's probably getting left behind there, and he shouldn't. It just so happens he's only center eligible. But Bridges, Booker, Ayton, Payne, it's a great spot when you face the Sacramento Kings. 232 total is the biggest on the slate.
Yeah, it looks like a really good spot, and I think there's some favorable pricing as well. Booker at 9K, I think stands out, looks very, very good. He's played 6 games now without Paul and with Payne. Still has a 30% usage rate and a 29% assist percentage. He's averaged 1.45 DraftKings points per minute. Should play a lot, assuming this game, is remotely competitive, and a very good matchup, like you said. So he stands out as the clear priority, but I still think 7,100 on Ayton's a pretty good price tag. I think Cameron Payne at 6,900 is interesting in tournaments. He's someone that I've been getting to a bit just because it seems like people kind of write him off since Devin Booker is back, but still, in the 6 games that he's played alongside Booker without Paul, he's averaged 1.14 DraftKings points per minute and 30 minutes per game. That's not enough to, make him look like a priority, but it is enough to make him look like somebody that typically has been going a bit under-owned. Today, we actually have him getting 17% ownership with an 11% chance of being optimal. So at least right now, that's not the case. But he is someone that I've been playing quite a bit in tournaments recently.
Yeah, I have Payne looking pretty good here. I like him a lot more on the FanDuel spot where he also gains the shooting guard eligibility, just opens up a little bit more. Yeah, Phoenix looks good. You kind of need all these guys to play that full freight minutes because they are also the biggest favorites on this slate, and beating up on Sacramento would not exactly be the craziest thing in the world here for Phoenix. So you do kind of have to treat it with kid gloves a bit. A little bit of ownership coming into Aaron Holiday and JaVale McGee. Do you see those as guys you would get to today?
McGee, I can always see just because he's cheap and a really, really good point per minute guy. Like, if anything happens where he plays a couple extra minutes, he can look really, really good. The issue with McGee, the issue, the issue with McGee is just that barring weird things, he's kind of capped in terms of how many minutes he can play. But I never mind taking shots at high point per minute guys. Holiday at 3,400, he's actually been pretty productive since joining Phoenix as well. The issue is playing time. Like, he played 6 minutes last game. You kind of need everybody out for him. So, actually, I don't know why he got passed by Peyton last game.
I didn't even notice that.
I'm guessing our projections haven't yet either.
I didn't even look at it just because that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
We have Holiday for 19 minutes. We have Peyton for 2. I think that ends up changing because Peyton played over him last game.
Yeah, I mean, it could also just be like a blip, but
yeah, it could. But like,
that's usually a trend,
right? Like, because it's not like Holiday checked in and checked out, or like Holiday played 6 minutes of garbage time, and that was the only time he stepped on the floor.
Yeah, that's
it's kind of weird though, because at least from a fantasy standpoint, he'd been producing in Phoenix, but when you're talking about his role on that team, him producing fantasy points could very easily not be in line with what they're asking him to do.
Neither one of those guys are going to play once it comes to the playoffs anyway, so I don't think they care all that much either way. Let's go to Sacramento then. For the Kings, we have a Q tag on De'Aaron Fox. Evidently, Jeremy Lamb is off the injury report. I don't know what that's going to mean. If Fox plays, he's 9,200 on FanDuel, 8,900 on DraftKings. We've got Domantas Sabonis pulling a ton of ownership on FanDuel because he's 8,400 and has power forward eligibility alongside center, 36% owned, fully warranted. He's 18% owned on DraftKings and still looks good. I think Trey Lyles and Dante DiVincenzo both look interesting today, even if Fox plays. And if he doesn't, obviously they look even better. Is Sacramento in like a sneaky decent spot here today?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the Fox news is pretty big. The Sabonis price tag on FanDuel, as you mentioned, is a joke. 9,400 on DraftKings looks pretty good as well. Like, he plays a lot of minutes when he's not in foul trouble and when the Kings aren't getting blown out. The issue is that both of those things happen pretty frequently. But if he gets to 36, 37 minutes, he's going to look good one way or the other. If Fox is out, Sabonis looks extremely good. Like, he's just going to do so many things for this team offensively. DiVincenzo, Mitchell, not really at price points I like that much if Fox is in on DraftKings, but if he's out, I think they both look better as well. I wouldn't read too much into Davion Mitchell's production last game. It was a tough matchup against the Celtics. He had a 24% usage rate. He just kind of sucked, but still played 35 minutes. If Fox is out, 4,300 for Mitchell, still going to look like a great value.
Absolutely.
And
Man,
don't sleep on Justin Holiday. Like, he's 3,900. He's not a great fantasy option, but 40 minutes last game. If Fox is out, he's probably going to play a lot as well.
flat minimum 3,500 on FanDuel for Holiday, shooting guard and small forward eligibility. That's just going to work on a slate like this. It's not going to be fun. And you need a very specific outcome out of Justin Holiday, but the minutes will be there, or at least should be there. I hate Sacramento. I really do.
I don't
And
mind.
yet,
Yeah. I don't know. I go back and forth with them because, like, they have productive players. For a bad team, they have so many productive players. Like, they get in each other's way.
They had even more.
Yeah,
trade deadline.
I haven't seen much talk recently about how great the Sabonis trade was.
Yeah. Nothing like making a win now move and not doing that.
Yeah. And then they won the first, like, 2 games, and people are like, oh, see, like, blah, blah, blah.
No, they're terrible. Absolutely terrible. Anything else here, Phoenix or Sacramento?
Did you see? I haven't watched the clip. I just saw the caption. On his podcast, JJ Redick asked Luka about the Kings passing on him.
He was just like, "Yeah, I don't know why they did
it. They wanted a big. I get it.
Yeah." And Redick was just like, "I'm not even going to follow up here and be like." I think if it wasn't Bagley, he might have said some shit. But since Bagley's a Duke guy, he probably just shut his mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did actually see that clip, and then I saw the clip about them asking Luka like what his experiences were in like coming to the States, and he's like, I'd only ever been to Santa Barbara, and I went to Six Flags. Like that was it. They were just dying. Wait, JJ was like, wait, like for real? He's like, yeah, I went to P3 in Santa Barbara for like 2 weeks, and then I went to Six Flags. That's all I did. That's my only experience. I didn't know anything else. Can you imagine Luka at like 17 coming over from playing in Euro ball, and they take him to what Six Flags is like to him?
Right.
I'd love to be there for that day. He just gets to walk around, and then if he tries to do that now, he can't even do it. He just gets mobbed. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the presenting sponsor on this one. That would be Yahoo Fantasy Sports. If you want to sign up, this one's pretty easy. Click the link in the description of this video, or just go to awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo. You can get yourself 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's a pretty decent deal. You get a little bit of a deposit bonus too. If you need some help getting that set up, email support@awesemo.com. We got the $20,000 baller going off today for Yahoo, so make sure you're getting in there. We have tons of tools, projections, everything designed specifically for Yahoo to give you your best chance at winning big. So make sure you guys are checking that out today. Again, awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo, or just follow the link in chat / in the description of this video. All right, couple more to go here. Utah at the New York Knicks. Jazz are 5-point favorites, 221 total. This one looks a little bit different than it did the last time the Jazz played, but it's still very interesting. No Mike Conley, no Bojan Bogdanovic. Hassan Whiteside and Trent Forrest are both questionable. There's also no Daniel House or no Azubuike, but Donovan Mitchell is back. Now, this is incredibly complicating. Donovan Mitchell looks great. 8,500 on FanDuel, 8,800 on DraftKings. 2 starters are out. He's just going to do a lot more. We see
Donovan Mitchell in the Garden narrative too.
That'll work as well. The big piece here, though, is if Trent Forrest is able to play, is he about to play 30 minutes, shooting guard, small forward at the flat minimum 3K? Per our ownership, that is what's going to happen because he is the highest owned guy on the Jazz. Talk to me in general about what you want to do here with Utah.
I would assume he starts. I would guess that you're getting Mitchell, Forrest,
Hernan Gomez,
O'Neal, Hernan Gomez, Gobert.
Yeah,
with Clarkson coming off the bench.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. So yeah, I would assume he starts. It's just a spot where Forrest isn't a great point per minute guy, but if he's starting at 3K flat with shooting guard, small forward, he deserves plenty of ownership. It's just a situation where he should be 3,800 or 4K and not 3K. So, pretty drastic misprice in terms of percentage, not in terms of raw dollars, but like you're getting a 25% discount or whatever that math works out to be. Too early for me to figure that out. But he was.
This guy relies on math for a living, folks.
I still have to. I'll go out to bars and like fill out the tip section. I can in my head I can like figure out what I'm tipping, but then trying to add them together, I still can't do it.
That's so. And then somebody's like, "What do you do?" It's like, only work with numbers, 24/7. Fantastic. All right, so Forrest is easy. Hit me with the cliff notes on why Donovan Mitchell looks good.
Just going to get a lot of usage, play a lot. Should have the ball in his hands more without Conley as well, especially if you do get that starting lineup that we just talked about where, and there's no reason to think you're not, where Mitchell's playing a lot of his minutes without Jordan Clarkson. Like Trent Forrest didn't take the ball from him. Royce O'Neal's not running the offense. Hernan Gomez and Gobert aren't doing anything. So you're just talking about having the ball in Mitchell's hands a ton. So assist percentage should go up in addition to the usage rate increasing.
Red Sox just signed somebody.
Trevor Story,
6 years, 140 million.
Nice.
There we go. What do we do with the rest of Utah? How do you feel about Gobert, O'Neal, Clarkson, Wancho? Is there anything else here?
I like Gobert quite a bit. I still think 7,700 is just too cheap of a price tag for him. If Whiteside is out, you potentially, I think you would have to bump Gobert's minutes projection as well, since Azubuike is also out. But even if Whiteside's in, you're talking typically 30 to 32 minutes from Gobert. He's really productive. Obviously last game he lost some playing time because the Clippers were just getting beat by 30 the entire game. Only played 26 minutes, but I still just think he's underpriced at 7,700. I don't mind taking shots on Clarkson in tournaments. I would expect him to be in the closing lineup if the game's competitive. But I think he's also pretty much correctly priced.
Is there anything else here? Wancho's pulling a little bit of ownership. That's it. We're not getting to Rudy Gay or anything, right? That experience is just not real.
Yeah, since they decided to start playing Wancho, it's made Rudy Gay pretty tough. He did play 22 minutes last game, but the issue is that they're playing Hernan Gomez ahead of him. So if they're going to keep him in the low 20s, at 3,700, he can still get there, but I'm not very confident in it.
Okay.
If Forrest is out, Alexander Walker at 3,800 ends up looking pretty good too.
All right, I'm done typing now, so we can go to the New York Knicks. No, I was not listening to you at all, actually.
No, I said that if Forrest is out, Alexander Walker looks like a good value.
Yeah,
assuming
that dude. Okay, New York Knicks, another team that I'm pretty sick of at this point. No Derrick Rose, no Nerlens Noel. Everybody else is available. Barrett, Randall, and Burks are all about 25% owned on FanDuel. They're all in the low teens on DraftKings, and then no one else is getting any ownership. He's been really bad as of late, and I don't feel comfortable wanting to do this, but I feel like Evan Fournier is the guy that's getting slept on the most here at essentially no ownership on DraftKings. I don't love the $5,400 price tag, but the minutes are there.
Yeah, he's been interesting to me in tournaments for quite a while, because the thing with Fournier is he's not a very good fantasy producer, but he's not bad either. He's around 0.8 to 0.85 fantasy points per minute in the games he's played without Kemba and Rose. And on average, he's playing 30 minutes. So you get that $5,400 price tag, which is more or less correct if you get 30 minutes of Evan Fournier. But the thing is, if he plays well, he can get 34, 35 minutes. And I know it's something Alex mentions a lot, and I agree with. When you get volatile minutes on somebody in tournaments, it's pretty appealing, because if Fournier is playing poorly, if you're getting the bad Evan Fournier game, that lineup is dead no matter how many minutes Fournier plays. If you're getting Fournier playing well, getting those extra 4 to 5 minutes when everyone projected him to play 30 is pretty appealing. So it's not a priority for me or anything. I think the boom bust tool reflects it pretty well. We have him with a 5% chance of being optimal at 1% ownership. So he's going under-owned. He's not someone that I'm just jamming into lineups heavily, but I'm with you as far as him going under-owned. I think Randall and Barrett are still the top two guys here. Just Barrett still playing a ton of minutes. He was pretty bad for me last game against Washington, but I don't mind going back to him, especially with point guard, small forward eligibility at 7,800. Randall still reasonably priced at 9,300. Robinson's never bad in tournaments, but I think Randall and Barrett are the two highest priority guys, and then Fournier does look like he's going a bit under-owned.
Yeah, I just I see Burks get 12% ownership and Fournier get 1%, and that's just, they're not all that different to me, especially with Fournier having shooting guard, small forward. He's even got the more advantageous positional setup. So I don't want to just jam Evan Fournier. That's not what I'm trying to say either for anybody else that's watching the show. I don't understand why he's unowned. I just when I saw it, I was just like, oh, I must have not paid attention to the Knicks rotations. Like he must be playing 22 minutes for the past 4 games, and now he played 34 the last time out.
Yeah.
All righty, on to Boston we go. 8 p.m. game. Celtics are 2.5-point favorites in Denver. 221 total. Everybody's available for Boston that's normally available. Nesmith is questionable. That doesn't really matter in this one. On the Denver side, still no MPJ, still no Jamal Murray, no Zeke Naji. So we're getting basically full strength teams here. Lots of ownership to Boston on FanDuel. Tatum at 31, Brown, Smart, and Rob Williams are all basically 19. And then on DK, you still get this a bit of ownership to Tatum at 10K. You get Marcus Smart around 12% ownership. You get Al Horford at 11. I don't really see a ton of priorities for Boston on DraftKings. I think the pricing on FanDuel opens them up a bit more.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of priorities in the sense where like I'm jamming any one guy into a lot of lineups. I do still think Tatum at 10K looks fine. He's been playing extremely well recently. Obviously, you can't expect him to shoot like 85% from 3 like he did last game or whatever it was, but he's playing well. Obviously playing a lot of minutes. He's still, I think, reasonably priced. But this is a team looking at the boom bust tool where you do get a pretty nice combination of guys that are under owned and also have pretty decent chances of success. We have Al Horford at 5,700 with a 13% chance of being optimal at like 10.5% ownership. Robert Williams, a 9% chance of being optimal at 4% ownership. Jaylen Brown, 10% at 8.5% ownership. So I do think those are guys where it is it's a little bit better combination where, yeah, they're not 1% owned like your Evan Fournier or Joval type guys, but they're also more likely to succeed than 4 or 5%.
I think we're on the same page there with regards to Boston. I like Robert Williams a ton once again on FanDuel. I had massive amounts of him on Friday, which did not work out well for me, but 6,200 with the power forward eligibility, I just don't really understand it. Rough matchup here, obviously, against Nikola Jokic. That's not going to be a fun time, but it's not even like he's playing bad. He's at 1.1 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I love Robert Williams. The fact that he gets the power forward eligibility on FanDuel is huge to me. The ownership's already there, but I think that it should be. There's just such a massive ceiling for him on FanDuel with 3 points for steals and blocks. It's like he could really have a hell of a day. Why does Derek White suddenly stink? He doesn't?
Yeah, I think this is probably a difference between fantasy points and what he's doing for the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm quite confident they're real happy they have him.
Although they haven't been playing as much as I thought they would.
I don't know if they need to right now.
Yeah, I think there's
he hasn't exactly been healthy for most of his career.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that he's someone that just gets ramped up in the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to go to a real tight rotation.
All of these like Peyton Pritchard,
Tice will not see the floor unless it's foul trouble.
That is actually, though, speaking of Tice, that is one minor cause for concern here with the current Boston rotation. They've talked about wanting to get Tice some minutes. So that potentially has a negative impact on Williams / Horford's playing time.
That's a good point. Switch it over to the Denver side now. No one with ownership north of 9% on DK. We get Jokic and Barton right around 15% on FanDuel. Feels like a tough day to get to Nikola Jokic, even though he's incredible.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, it's not the best matchup. You're talking about an expensive option at 12K. You're never going to be upset about getting to Jokic, but at least so far, we haven't really talked about a ton of great value either. When the guys that you're like expecting to be jamming in are Trent Forrest, and then I don't really know who else. Like, it might be kind of difficult to get there.
Yeah, I don't really see it. Obviously, if you build a lineup with Nikola Jokic, don't freak out. It's probably still going to be fine.
I mean, and it's reflected in his ownership. He's projected for 8% ownership. Anytime you see Jokic projected for 8% ownership, it's a pretty good sign that not much value has opened up yet.
1.82 FanDuel points per minute for Jokic over the past 30 days. Pretty darn good.
Not in the boom bust tool, so can't give any info from that.
Okay. Yeah, it's just not a great spot. 221 total. I don't really see anything that I want to talk about from Denver.
No, I don't see too much. I don't mind, like, if value doesn't open up anywhere else, I don't mind, taking some shots at a $5,300 Barton or a $4,700 Morris, just hoping for the best. But it's March 20th. You'll probably get some value opening up.
All righty. Well, 2 games to go. The late night hammers, aka these games tip off at 8:30. San Antonio Spurs 6.5-point dogs in Golden State, 227 total. We're clearly going to have a lot to talk about on the Golden State side. When we start with San Antonio, though, Q tag on Josh Richardson, Q tag on Keita Bates-Diop, no Lonnie Walker, no Romeo Langford, and no Dougie McBuckets for the rest of the season. Devin Vassell, about 20% owned across both sites. That is the most popular option. Keldon Johnson is up to 7,100 on FanDuel, not really that owned. He's still 6,200 on DraftKings and almost 20% owned. And then obviously getting to someone like DeJounte Murray always feels pretty darn good. What do you want to do with San Antonio here?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting team, I think, because DeJounte Murray obviously is always going to be a good play, especially with like the way value looks right now. I think it's just going to be a lot easier to get to a $10,600 Murray than find the extra $1,400 for Jokic at center, at least the way things look. So I do like Murray a lot, but San Antonio could be really shorthanded on the wings. And it's the kind of spot where like it's not on the surface, you don't really notice it because it's a bunch of guys that you wouldn't be playing in DFS. But if Josh Richardson is out and Keita Bates-Diop is out, you're talking about Devin Vassell and Josh Primo basically being like the only, and Wieskamp, I guess, being like the only wings that they have. So
Yeah.
I would expect more minutes for Vassell one way or the other, but especially if those guys are out. Similarly, if Josh Richardson is in at 4,400, I think he plays close to 30 minutes and looks decent. So I think you can potentially attack some value on the wings there. Murray, clearly looks like the top guy. Pirtle is always fine, but I do think paying attention to the injury news on those wings is going to be really important.
Yeah, Richardson, huge piece here. I gave him the 30 minutes. I think he looks like the best play on San Antonio if he happens to be in, just from a minutes, position, and price perspective.
Yeah, and Keldon Johnson potentially benefits in terms of minutes as well if some guys are out.
Yeah, and at 6,200, that works. I think if those guys start to be out, he probably looks a little bit more reasonable on FanDuel, even at that $7,100 price tag. But
yeah, exactly.
He's a guy I never get right.
Nope, me neither.
It's a lot to pay attention to for San Antonio, but there's certainly a lot to pay attention to here for Golden State. Just in case you've been living under a rock, we're not going to have any Steph Curry in this one. James Wiseman also was slowly ramping up. He is ramping back down now. Wiggins is in. Bielitsa is off the injury report. There's no Gary Payton. There's no Andre Iguodala. And Moses Moody is questionable. Lots to like here, but I think the very obvious best piece is Jordan Poole, 7,600 on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings, and he is the new Steph Curry for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think he looks good. I mean, 7K is a pretty healthy price tag there, especially, still playing alongside Clay and playing alongside Wiggins. It's at least a price tag where it wouldn't shock anybody if he doesn't come through. But at the same time, 875 minutes without Curry on the floor this year, 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, likely to give you mid-30s in playing time. Looking now to see how many of those minutes have been alongside Clay. He's played
big time
146
pace up spot too for them today against San Antonio, which helps.
What'd you say?
Big time pace up spot too for Golden State here. So
146 minutes for Poole with Thompson on and Curry off. Still has a 22.8% usage rate and 1 DraftKings point per minute, 26.6% assist percentage.
I feel like the usage rate would come up in that scenario. That feels like a little bit of a fluke. I wonder who's getting it. Kuminga?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, Kuminga's at 26%.
Yeah.
Wiggins is only at 18, though.
Okay.
I guess, I'll look.
I think Poole stabilizes in like that 25 range at that point in time because I don't think Kuminga drives it all either.
So in the 146 minutes that they've been on the floor together, Thompson's at 28.2, Poole's at 22.8, Wiggins is at 19, Kuminga's at 25.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, wouldn't be surprised. My assumption is Kuminga loses a few points and you see both of Poole and Wiggins gain a little bit.
Agreed. I think you can kind of give Kuminga's too much to Wiggins and equalize both of them, and then I just don't know if Poole's able to grab too much more. That's where it gets a little interesting. Yeah. Either way, I want to
I think Thompson is obviously getting his.
You would think.
Like he hasn't been shy even when Curry's been out there this year.
No, not at all. How do you feel about him today? 7,900 on DraftKings is a lot.
Yeah, it is, but I don't know. I don't. Looking at the ownership, like we have 23% ownership going to 7K Jordan Poole, 8% going to $7,900 Klay Thompson. I don't think they're that different. And Neither does Alex. Alex
Yeah.
has Poole with a 9% chance of being optimal. He has Clay with a 10% chance of being optimal, and Poole getting 3 times the ownership.
I had a bit bigger of a separation. I might have Poole's usage rate a little bit higher than I should. If I kick that down a little bit, man, I still get significantly more Poole than I was expecting. Maybe it's just the $900 that matters. I think Poole's more likely to play more minutes than Clay too.
I don't know about that one. I mean, maybe, but in the sense like, 36 to 34 or something.
Yeah, I got a 34-33 right now. It's way more likely for Poole to play like 38 if he has to than Clay for sure. They're just not going to do that to Clay, but I don't know if that's really applicable here either.
Yeah, 154 minutes for Clay this year without Curry. 1.25 DraftKings points per minute, 27.8% usage, 23% assist percentage.
What do you want to do with the rest of Golden State?
And also, I think worth noting, it's a good thing for Clay that Green is going to be playing at least some minutes.
Yeah, without question. He just makes things work better on offense.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'd be a little bit more concerned that Jordan Poole just decides it's the Jordan Poole show if Draymond's never taking the ball away from him.
Yeah. Now, I only think I have Draymond in for like 24 minutes, so I don't think he's out there a ton. But
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's not. I don't think you're getting like Draymond just playing all the starter minutes or anything even close. But yeah, I don't know. I really like Clay in tournaments the way things look right now.
Thoughts on the Looney ownership before we move on to the final game?
I think it's just a case where there's not a lot of value on the slate. So getting like 24 to 26 minutes from Looney looks like a pretty good point per dollar spot to save some money. I don't mind throwing darts at like Porter or Kuminga and kind of just hoping to get lucky either. They're both pulling a little bit of ownership. They both look pretty close to correctly owned. And then the other thing I'd throw out there too is, so I think Clay and Poole are very close, and I don't think the ownership gap should be nearly as big as it is. But I'll throw Wiggins in there too. Not that I think he's in the same, not quite as good as either of those guys, but he's getting 5% ownership. He's certainly someone that you can see in any one given game step up and take on a bigger role as well.
Absolutely. All right, a couple more minutes to go here. We got to close this one out. Raptors 5.5-point favorites in Philly, 223 total. We know what's going on with the Raptors. Same as usual. No OG, no Malachi Flynn. Then for Philly, we've got the Q tag on Joel Embiid. I think we are on the same page here for Toronto, but I know one piece is easy. $7,300 on FanDuel. Fred VanVleet is just stupidly priced and should be owned. But Siakam, Barnes, VanVleet, Trent, I'm happy to get to all of these guys.
Yeah, assuming, I mean, we're at a point now where there's no questionable guys on Toronto, knock on wood, so a little bit easier to talk about, and it does create a situation where these guys are mostly correctly priced, but they all still have really high ceilings because they all can play a ton of minutes. They're all good. For example, Scotty Barnes at 8,300. I think it's very safe to say that he's overpriced, but he also clearly still has a ceiling. You have to go back literally one game to see him, put up 60 plus fantasy points. Gary Trent can obviously get hot and destroy a $6,200 price tag. But in terms of chances of success, I think it's VanVleet at 8,100 and Siakam at 9,100 as the two that, I'd be looking to the most frequently.
Likewise. And yeah, just for VanVleet on FanDuel, play it blindly at 7,300. That's just incorrect.
Yeah.
Especially now that we know that he can play like 40 minutes too.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Like he's not even limited. Like he played 47 minutes on the 18th. So clearly in overtime, but still 42.
Yeah, the only like minor concern I have with VanVleet is whether or not the injury is affecting his performance.
Right.
But if it's kind of like me and Loughy were talking about it the other day, if VanVleet were like 9K or something or 9,200, then maybe you have to try and start to look a little bit more and say like, okay, he's shooting X percentage over the last month or whatever. But when you're getting a discount, I don't really care. Like I think it's just going to come out in the wash. It's really difficult to quantify how an injury is potentially affecting somebody if it's somebody playing 38 minutes a game, because you can at least draw the conclusion that the coach isn't too worried about his health. So I'm not overly worried about it. To answer the question in chat from Mark Curry, no problem playing Clay and Poole in the same lineup, I don't think.
We'll close it out with Philly. How much of my favorite play on FanDuel would you like? That would be $5,300 Tyrese Maxey. Although the public is getting to $5,600 Tobias Harris, which is really crazy to see.
I like both of those prices.
Same. Same. How do you feel about these guys on DraftKings? I think Harden is the guy we're looking for on Philadelphia.
I still think Embiid looks a little better at 11-3, but it's kind of the same story that we've had on DraftKings for a while now. Embiid and Harden, I think, are clearly the top two guys. Harris and Maxey have gotten a little bit cheaper, 6,300 for Maxey, 6,400 for Harris, starting to kind of get into that territory where it's like, okay, they play a lot of minutes. They're going to have some games where they just get hot from three and put up a good score. So they're starting to get into like viable tournament territory for me, but I think the clear priorities are still Embiid and Harden.
All righty. Get yourself some Maxey for 5,300 on FanDuel, folks. Number one contender for today. Adam, do you have any other content coming out today?
No, I was supposed to be off today, so nothing else.
There we go. Not even supposed to be here today. Thank you guys for being here. College basketball live before lock is coming up next. Make sure you're checking that one out. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the final day of your weekend. Back tomorrow, doing it all again. Strategy show in the morning, all that good stuff. Peace out, everybody. Go Yahoo. And hit that like button. Why not?